was scared, and I felt like what it was like to be accused of something I didn't do. Now, as a criminal defense lawyer, Danny, some people say, how do you sleep at night? And I'm like, I sleep fine. I fight for my clients. I mean, like, I'm there. It's for our clients. It's for people that sometimes don't have a chance.
When you're trying a case, it's your show. So in a sense, you're getting to fulfill what you want while helping people, right?
That scarlet letter, it's pinned on you. You want to, when you can, to try to control the narrative before they do you. Innocent people do get arrested. In fact, it happens more often than we think. Some days I'm the fly, some days I'm the freaking windshield, but
Sure.
like, I like what I do.
And I'm honored to have him, one of my close friends and a person I consider a mentor, attorney Eric Schwartzreich.
Welcome to Two Taps and Friends. Grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive into another episode of Two Taps and Friends.
Welcome back, everybody, to Two Taps and Friends. I'm Danny Rosenberg, your host. Today I have a guest that I've been trying to get on here, and I'm honored to have him, one of my close friends and a person I consider a mentor, attorney Eric Schwartzreich. You've probably seen him on Court TV if you're even tapped into the legal world, or if you're tapped into any world, you've seen him on TV. He represents high-profile cases, represents a lot of NFL guys, a lot of actors, he's all over the place. He's just the people person, one of the most fantastic lawyers I know. Eric, welcome to the show.
Danny, thank you. I love you, brother. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thank you for lying for me. I love that, man. I've got friends in low places, too. High places, low places, you name it. And
you get
it's
around.
a great setup over here, man. Wow, like, look at this place.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun, man. We have a lot of fun, you know. But yeah, give a little bit of, if you could give a little bit intro or background for the audience so they kind of know how you got into this, where you are now. I know you're firm now, but you know, how do you get into it? How did you start? Where you come from, and all that.
All right, so I'm a frustrated actor. I'm a criminal defense attorney for 30 years. And how did I get into criminal defense? I mean, I think I was accused of something. I went to a boarding school in high school, and some teachers one day, I was out, we were skiing, and we were on the side of the ski hill, and one of the students, not me, I'll take the fifth, was smoking some marijuana, and they accused me of doing it. I went through this board and almost got kicked out of the school, and it really wasn't me. And I was scared, and I felt like what it was like to be accused of something I didn't do. That was something that definitely always sticks with me. And having a chip on my shoulder as a kid, always being told, you can't do this, you're not going to be able to be a lawyer. I had a grandfather who was a lawyer and a businessman, and they always said, go into law. I wanted to be an actor. He's like, if you become a lawyer, I'm going to wash my hands of you. Well, not a lawyer, an actor. And I just pursued my dreams of acting. It didn't go that well, and went to law school, and I'm a trial lawyer. I love trying cases. You get to write, you get to direct, you write your directs, your cross-examinations, put on a show, and people have to shut up, listen to me talk. I really like when that happens. I wish my wife would let me,
Me
talk
too.
more at home, but
Me
she doesn't,
too.
man. So,
That doesn't
Mila, I love you, but you got to let me talk more at home, honey. Please let me talk more at home.
We both love you, Mila. I know her very well, and if for something he upsets you, I have nothing to do with that.
That's true,
you
but
know?
Danny, please don't love her too much, because that's very disturbing.
No, but it's funny when you say like you wanted to be an actor. Like, so I represent some actors, and I remember one of the first actors I represented was just asking me so many questions about like the law, and I was like, this guy's really like, I should be asking him about stuff. It seems like what he does is more exciting. But he said, no, what you guys do is acting. You know, when you're a lawyer, you're acting. You're not like, you know, it's not acting. You're putting on a show, put it that way. You're the entertainer, right? And you're very good at trials. And like, if anyone looks up Eric, he's been in very high profile trials. But when you're trying a case, it's your show. So in a sense, you're getting to fulfill what you want while helping people, right? So
Absolutely. Like, let me entertain you. I tried a case once with Anthony Bruno, Sheila Zolnor. We went to Glades County. It was like my cousin Vinny coming to town. I was wearing a green jacket and probably a red shirt. And they wanted a show every day. They really wanted to be entertained. I mean, we were joking that we were probably the greatest show that had come to town, but really, they really want you to be real and to be honest. So we went up there and we joined like one of these Elks lodges, and we like were pleading our case to these jurors and got a free steak dinner and just talked to the people. So while we act, you have to be real, and most importantly, you have to be yourself. Is what you have to do.
Right, and that's why I said acting loosely, because you're really putting on, the stakes are always so high, right, in what we do, right? So, and were you a public defender before?
I was. I started out in the public defender's office back in 1996. My wife Mila went there and worked there, and then after a year I left. I went out and opened up a firm with 5 attorneys, Rob Bushell, Ray Ferrero, Joe Carter, who's no longer with us, passed away at a young age,
Amazing
and Robert
man.
Yates, and then Now it's just me by myself and my associates, and try my cases.
Right. It's funny. We have a similar story. Like, I was also a public defender. I was there for like a year, tried as many cases as I could. For people that don't know, the public defender's office, state attorney's office, if you want to learn to try cases, I don't think there's a better place to learn, because it's like trial by fire, right? You get in there as a young lawyer, they're like, here you go, here are your files.
It's the stuff they don't teach you in law school.
They
Like, when you
can't.
become a public defender or state attorney, you're there. The stakes are high, real cases,
Right.
real clients, and you're in a courtroom. You're with a judge, and you learn. I mean, and you learn sometimes that and you make mistakes, but that's where you really learn to be a lawyer. When you start trying cases, when you become a public defender or a state attorney, and that was the greatest job ever. Right, is the pure practice of law. I didn't have to worry about money or fees. If we needed experts and if they had the budget, they would do it.
Right.
It was a lot different. We just went in there and we just tried our cases.
Right.
You name it, we tried it.
We just didn't get paid a lot of money.
No, we didn't, but
It wasn't for that, right?
it wasn't.
We were fighting a good fight, is what we called it,
I
right?
wouldn't want to do anything else. Like, a lot of people, like,
Right.
they wake up lawyers, like, they're miserable, they're not happy. Like, for the most part, I mean, some days I'm the fly, some days I'm the freaking windshield, but
Sure.
like, I like what I do. Like, I'm really passionate about it. I like being in the courtroom. I really like helping people, and I think that's like part of it. Like, if I didn't enjoy it, I'd be miserable. It's not about the money. For me, it's about waking up every day and being happy. Now, as a criminal defense lawyer, Danny, some people say, how do you sleep at night? And I'm like, I sleep fine. I sleep next to a beautiful woman every night, and I believe. And it's not that I'm a true believer. Like, when I take on a case and I'm in the courtroom and I fight for my clients, I'm like, I'm there. It's for our clients. It's for people that sometimes don't have a chance or accused of things they didn't do or overcharged. And
Right.
it really brings a lot of enjoyment to me, and I'm really passionate about what I do.
And listen, you're good people. Just to tell the viewers a little bit about Eric Schwartzreich, I also was a young public defender. I did it for a year, try cases. I didn't know Eric very well, and one day he comes up to me. I'll never forget this. He comes up to me and says, "Hey, how are you? How's it going for you?" And Eric's like a big time lawyer, big name, and I'm like talking, doing great. Like, how's it going? I'm going on private practice. Really, let me take you to lunch. So he and Joe and a couple other parts. Joe Carter is a great man. Passed away. He's not with us. Great man. All three of it was Joe and someone else. Was he
It
Yates?
was Ray Ferrero, it was Rob Bouchel. Rob Bouchel went on to get involved and tried the Roger Stone case,
yeah.
and then Robert Yates.
Yates.
We're all still, again, we missed you all the time, but we're all still in contact with each other, and, we've all gone on different paths.
Right. But these guys took me to lunch, and I remember Eric looks at me, he goes, ask me anything you want about private practice, go. Literally, and just gave me some of the best pointers that I could get. We got me signed up on this, get signed up on that, get signed up on that. And to me, like, I don't forget stuff like that. So you always have been top notch for me. And now I've been doing this for 20 some years, there's few things that we don't, that I haven't seen or don't know how to handle or need advice on. But if I do, he's the call I'm making.
I appreciate it. I told you not to do those pornos.
But I
I
can't-
told you not to become a porn star. That's your side gig, and you didn't listen to me on that, but those are some great
They
films.
pay well, man.
Well, they probably do. 2 thumbs up there, brother.
Exactly. But nowadays I see you doing, you're always, and look, I represent high profile guys too.
A lot that
Yeah,
you do.
but I just thought you were like, you've been handling it for so long, and I see you, and I always watch, and I like the way you think and you act and the way you do all this stuff. What do you think, if you're talking to young lawyers or, lawyers coming out, with representing these high profile cases, what are some challenges that you immediately notice when you went from, not normal people, but people that aren't necessarily high profile? What are some of the bigger challenges that you're dealing with?
Well, as far as the client goes, some of our high-profile clients are very easy to get along with and very humble and come from humble backgrounds. But some of them, there's a lot of expectations there, and there's a lot of demand there, and sometimes they, they're very difficult to deal with, calls all the time, and they want results. So I have to go on in my mind, and I always have, this motto, I stole it from a movie, Apollo 13, failure is not an option, that I'm going to get things done, and always going to come across confident, be calm, be there for them, and, try and get for them what I can that's ethical and what can be done. But, sometimes it's, with clients and with these phones, forget about high profile, like even when we want to tune out, turn off, or like be on
impossible.
vacation, we're always working. And I like that, and that comes with the job, but it's difficult. And the more successful sometimes, because not always, right? Not all clients, high profile, low profile, no profile, are the same. But sometimes, there's a lot of expectations and they demand a lot and they'll call a lot and they want you to move quickly. So I use all the contacts that I have. I have a lot of contacts. I've built up a contact base over the past 30 years by just goodwill and being there for people and just having the right people in place and knowing you can make phone calls and hopefully, get things done in the time frame and quickly and the right way that your clients want you to get them in.
Right, I was talking to, I don't know if you probably missed this phase of lawyers where they could practice and just when they left the office, right? There was no cell phones, maybe fax machines, but I try to explain, like, my wife sees me all the time and I'm always on the phone and doing this, and like, with these high-profile clients, first of all, everybody has access to you, and as a lawyer, people don't realize how difficult that is because we're representing people in the most stressful thing that's going on in their life, period, right? And these these celebrity types or they're used to people catering to them at all times, all hours. So it comes with that challenge of you have to do it extra. I was telling my wife Sylvia the other day, I'm like, listen, this guy, he's a very high-paying, high-name client. Like he's just, if I want to represent him, I have to be able to deal with those kind of contacts, and it's a lot more challenging. Now, also, I find that these things all lights are on you, all the eyes are on you on these big name cases too. And it makes a case I find that would be sometimes easier to resolve, way harder to resolve. Would you agree with that?
100%. All eyes are on you, the prosecutors, the clients, the family members, and and a lot of times I'll put myself out there before I even know the results, and I go to trial more than most lawyers.
Yes, you do.
Hence the bags underneath my eyes, and I got to color my hair a lot more, probably 3 times a week now. I go to trial a lot more than others, and when you put yourself out there, when you have the high-profile clients, you hope to yourself, man, if I drank the Kool-Aid, because I always believe that I'm going to prevail, or for my client, and that's how I got my beautiful wife to marry me, because I never give up, and knock on, it's not wood. Is this wood, Danny?
I don't even know.
Whatever this
Maybe
is,
we'll
I'm
call
knocking
it
on
wood.
I've had some success, but we don't win every case, right? You go in there and you fight for your clients, and it's challenging when all the eyes are on you and you put yourself out there and it's going to be high profile, and what's the verdict going to be, and you don't know, and knock on wood, in a lot of my high profile cases that have been covered, we've prevailed. Not all of them, but most of them, and that pressure, when you go home at night and your demons, you're thinking about what makes me want to be a lawyer too, is my insecurities, my demons. If a jury comes back and they don't believe, I say, well, is it about the facts or they didn't believe me? And the things that motivate me, the things that keep me up late at night and
Right.
to the wee hours of the morning when you're prepping trial, it's I got to prevail. There is no option.
Right.
And believing that helps me get there.
Yeah, and what I think one of the things that makes it more challenging when the lights are on you, it brings you to like I said, it's harder to resolve cases, brings you to the media, right? And that's an extra challenge. First of all, we're all dealing with just access to TikTok and Twitter, and everything is just so out there. But as lawyers, when I'm representing an NFL guy, as soon as the first reporter tweets one thing about this NFL person, it's the floodgates. When we say floodgates, you see it now, right? It's literally people in China will hear about it in 10 minutes, which makes it so much more challenging to deal with as attorneys because, we come in, we kind of want things on the low, right? We want to be able to call the prosecutor and say, listen, let's work this out. But now something like a trespass, a misdemeanor, the prosecutors are super nervous, right? Because they are not used to that kind of attention. They have everybody calling. The reporters are relentless. With the media, it makes it so much more challenging. And I thought it was always interesting with you how you handle the media, because you handle the media slightly different, because a lot of attorneys won't make any comments to the media, but you found a way where you'll talk to the media, but you won't hurt your case. What is your take on that? Go ahead.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, Danny.
No, go ahead.
It's not a one-size-fits-all, right?
Right.
When we were kids, I remember we'd watch our news, whether it was CBS, NBC, or ABC. It was 6:30 news, or you'd get the local news at 6 o'clock. We didn't have the internet. Now, like you just said, boom, something is going on. Use the China example, the UK Mirror. they love to publish like all these stories.
Oh, yeah.
And
They're not even a tabloid. Sorry to cut you off, but they're not a tabloid, but they seem like they're a tabloid, right?
like
Like
it.
they go crazy, but they're legitimate in the eyes of some of these people.
It
you
is,
know?
and the second something happens and it's out there, it's not like the days where it was, you had the 6:30 news or the 6 o'clock news, maybe one hit or two hits a day. Now, because of the internet, it's viral, it's out there, and
Right.
sometimes you want to get out there, you need to control the narrative. Sometimes you don't. Listen, when you got a client that's charged with a sex offense, or child pornography, that's worse than someone being accused of murder. And just because someone's
Agreed.
accused of something doesn't mean that they've done something. But when you
Sure.
get something out there, that scarlet letter, it's pinned on you. You want to, when you can, to try to control the narrative before they do you. Sometimes you don't want to say anything. I mean, there have been times where I've had cases with other lawyers on high-profile situations, represent a lot of law enforcement, and the press was just beating them up every day. And it got to a certain point where, I'm like, we need to get ahead of this. We need to get out there, and we did, and we did it in court, and the media had covered it, and then things changed, and the narrative changed, but sometimes it becomes a day late and a dollar short. So when you can, and ethically, as much as you're allowed to, when you've got a high-profile situation, you want to try to get ahead of it, because sometimes the first shot to the bow, the first thing that gets out there is how the narrative is taken, or what the press nicknames or dubs the case, and how it's going to be perceived. So I'm not foolish enough, Danny, to think that we can control the media as lawyers. I've made contacts with the media. They have a job to do. We respect their job. They respect our job. I mean, we never tell them what to write, but hopefully they'll listen. Like, what makes good lawyers or trial lawyers? Lawyers that listen to people.
Right,
And then
right.
hopefully when you make your contacts with the press and you talk to them, they'll hear you, they'll see you, and any agenda that the press might have, because sometimes, there is an agenda. They have a job to do, we have a job to do, but they'll listen to what the facts are. If it's self-defense, they'll go right down the alley there and they'll say, this is a self-defense case, or use that mantra. But you want to try to get what your message is out when it's a high-profile situation as soon as you can.
Right, but that comes from experience. Like, you're very experienced at it, so you're able to take an eye and say, hey, listen, this is, and some are no comments, and some are put the narrative out. I remember, like, in one of the first couple of cases I represented, the use of a word, because it's very hard to win the war in the media, right? It's almost impossible, right? Because people are going to report what they want to report, right? So I remember one of my high-profile clients was fighting. And I used the word like, we're going to fight the charges. And that little slip of the tongue, like, he's fighting even in court. Like, they just went off on it. It's just one of these things where you got to craft so carefully.
It is, and then the editors, right? You'll speak to a reporter, or if it's the print media, then an editor gets a hold of it and like, well, now someone's got to read this story, because that's not exactly what this is about. It's difficult, but I feel that if you're honest with the reporters and you build up a rapport for the most that they can, they will, they'll listen to you, they'll go to you for sources. I mean, we understand they've got a job to do, but when there's a story and you can be first and give them a story, hopefully in return they will, as they can, get the message out as to what you're trying to convey. And it's not that we're spinning BS. I mean,
Right.
we need the state. What happened is everyone has a slant, but what we have to sell, if you will, or get out there as to what it is that we want to convey, what this case is about. This is not about murder. This is about self-defense. This is about
Right.
someone that was attacked. This is not about police brutality. This is about someone that was arrested, that was resisting, that wasn't compliant, was a danger to everyone else, in that area they were in, and a police officer was left with no choice. This is about an athlete or someone that's than an actor, not about a sexual battery. It's about consent and a shakedown for money. Whatever it is, the truth is, if you can get that out there in the beginning, that can help, take the case a certain place, and also, as much as you can, try to control the narrative.
Right. I think it's important to get as much of the facts that you can before you do that. And sometimes you don't have that.
Is it
that-
too early to have rum?
You
A
can
little
do
rum in
whatever
here?
you
No,
want.
just Diet
Drink
Cokes,
whatever. It's
man.
never too early for you.
Bad habit.
No, but you have to know. I think you got to know the storyline as best to kind of anticipate where this is going to go, argument-wise, for both sides. Sometimes with guys like TMZ, you don't even have a chance to pick your head up, and these guys are there. But I think that's important. It brings me to the next topic I want to talk to you about, which I think are the most challenges. And I haven't done many of these where law enforcement, you defend a lot of law enforcement. You have like a role with them. You defend, you're part of an association, or is that, how is it? Can you tell me about that a little bit?
So when I started, from being a public defender and being aggressive and,
Right.
what I would deem to be appropriately aggressive and crossing police officers, and when my wife Mila had run for judge, we were out there in the community, we met a lot of officers, met a lot of the unions, they would see me in court and started representing the officers. I had one case, a Peraza case, which stand your ground, which went all the way up to the Florida Supreme Court,
Right, I
which I
remember
got
it
to
well.
argue that police officers under the statute are people too and can use the stand your ground law. And representing police officers, I mean, I am so thankful for the people that serve, officers that serve, people that serve in the military. And some criminal defense attorneys will be critical of those. So, like, how can you be a criminal defense attorney and represent officers? But to me, the smart clients or other attorneys that want to criticize that realize that there could be some positives for that because they see that there'll be some respect there, or they'll listen, or perhaps they'll be more concerned or scared when I'm on a case. But to me, it's been an asset to my civilian clients, and it's been a pleasure and a blessing to represent law enforcement because we've been in a climate where I've seen a lot of law enforcement that have been wrongfully accused. But whoever gets the tagline, Danny, the defendant, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a police officer, or even a judge, because I've had the opportunity to represent judges on some occasion. Whoever gets the tagline, the defendant, is entitled to a defense, is entitled to due process, entitled to have a lawyer go in the court. The state or the government has to prove their case, and innocent people do get arrested. In fact, it happens more often than we think. I mean, overcharged, and we get jaded because we see people, you were talking before about like our jobs can be exciting, or how someone might say what you do is really cool. Like, people think what we do is really cool.
Right.
We get jaded by it because what we see on a daily basis and the calls that we get, but everyone, law enforcement officers, everyone's entitled to a defense. Just because someone gets arrested, rich or poor, everyone should have equal justice. And I know people think, well, people that have more money, they get more justice than others that are poor. Everyone is entitled to justice. Poor, rich, skinny, fat, tall, small, everyone.
Agreed. And we talked about this on the podcast many times. Most defense attorneys will agree with you as far as people think like you don't like cops. Like, I love almost all the cops. Like there's some bad apples, of course, but most are not. Most are doing their job, and it's a tough job, man. It's a tough job in this day and age. Like, I thank them all the time. I'm very respectful always. I'm friends with a lot of them. It's so difficult being law enforcement in this day and age with just the attacks on the media and the stigma. And with that, I just wanted to transition. We'll talk about that some more. Like with these law enforcement officers, some of these cases, like I can see, like I don't want to name specifically, but let's say George Floyd, right? That was a horrible thing, right? Nobody had to watch, but there was some background on that too. Like all these officers, was the one where the guy was like had his hands up.
Right.
That one I thought was I don't know if you want to give your opinion on it, but I thought that was a good shoot. Like it's just so hard.
Listen, police officers will tell you, judges, lawyers, there are bad lawyers, there are good lawyers, there are
Right.
bad doctors, great doctors. There are bad police officers and great police officers. Police officers, judges, lawyers, doctors, we don't want people in our profession that run awry or don't do a good job or do something criminal. But it happens. And, the George Floyd thing in situations like that, when you represent law enforcement, it's very difficult when you go into a courtroom, especially in that time. The pendulum
Sure.
is always swinging back and forth. Pro law enforcement, not against law enforcement. What county are you in? Are you in Martin County? Are you in Collier County? Are you in Broward County? As to like how people perceive things. And when the George Floyd situation was happening and I had police officers, I had to take it in front of a jury. I had to spend a lot of time talking to the jurors, explaining to them, explaining how that situation is different, because what happens in those high-profile situations is everyone gets painted with one brush. So there are bad police officers and there are great police officers. I don't think all police officers I've encountered, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I represent civilians where I've encountered bad things that officers
Sure.
have done. And I've represented law enforcement officers where they should have never have been charged. I mean, it's about an individual case, and law enforcement will tell you that too. They don't want bad law enforcement officers. And as lawyers, we shouldn't, like criminal defense lawyers, we don't hate police officers. They have a job to do. We have to live in our community, in our society. We're thankful for police officers, but I think that everyone just needs to walk in someone's shoes to understand. As a good trial lawyer, you have to listen and you you walk in someone's shoes and you try to understand, like, why are we here? What made this case get filed, and what is the situation, and what's the appropriate defense for this case?
Right. I think it brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about was jury selection, especially with law enforcement, but in all these high-profile cases especially. Jury selection in and of itself is the art of trial, right? And you know that. And you taught mock trial. You were the coach for years at American Heritage, and you know that we win and lose in jury selection, right?
100%. Jury selection is everything.
Right.
And you really get to talk to the jurors. You know, people think that, criminal justice is about the truth or innocence. I mean, there is a lot of that, but it's
Sure.
about proven or not proven, or what 6 people, because here in Florida, if it's not a death case or a life case or a murder case, you're going to get 6 jurors. We hear 12 jurors, 12 jurors. It's about whatever the number of jurors is finding the 6 people or the 12 people that are going to be able to listen, to buy what it is that you want to sell. And I don't want to equate us to salesmen, because people are like, oh, lawyers, used car salesmen, but it's about finding those jurors, talking to them, their experience. How did they grow up? What experience have they had with, if it's an athlete case, with an athlete, with law enforcement officers, with being accused of something they didn't do. If it's a domestic violence case, talking to the jurors if they've had experience, with domestic violence, so you understand what point of reference, what those 6 or 12 people are going to understand that you can talk to, and you can, when I use the term sell, that you can say, this is what happened, and they're willing to listen and buy your argument. Because some 6 people, and I've seen this happen before, when I've split jurors with a co-defendant, there have been similar facts. The 6 people have found someone not guilty, and another 6 people have found someone guilty under the same set of facts. And that makes you wonder, is our system about guilt or innocence, or is it about, perspective and perception? And jury selection, that's where perception, where you pick your players and who's going to listen, that's really where you win or you lose your case.
Right, and it's challenging enough when it's a person that's not a celebrity or high profile. But how do you, what other facets do you add to your jury selection, to your voir dire? Voir dire, just for laymen, that's Latin for, basically where you get to, you're questioning people. You're trying to find out about them. In your voir dire, how do you go about, what different techniques do you use in these because let's face it, it used to be where they would sequester the juries, you can't read about this, that instruction that we hear, you do not read on the media. Come on, these guys have phones. They're sitting there getting alerts from TMZ, TikTok, it's impossible. I'm sitting here now, my phone's blowing up with alerts. I don't even know I don't even know I had these apps, right? How do you handle, when you're questioning people, how do you take that in consideration, and what kind of line of questioning are you doing for especially law enforcement? And I mean, going into the different kinds, law enforcement, celebrity, how do you handle that differently?
Well,
what more do you do? Because you got to do more in those cases.
Well, it's all different, right? So, for example, I was just with Mike Gottlieb and Shil Zollner. We were up in Tampa, different jurisdiction, right? I love trying cases in different jurisdictions, and it was a sexual battery allegation of a fraternity, young college student who was in fraternity, and the allegation was a girl in a sorority, and it was a allegation of rape. And there was a controlled phone call, which the state believed that they had our client dead to rights. And I use the example of the sexual battery case because different than a DUI case, right? I have different questions that I have to ask. And in the sexual battery case, I have lots of questions designed, to talk about people's experiences, dating experiences. Our defense in that case was consent, and our client was not just not guilty, he was innocent. I mean, he didn't do it. But our defense was consent. Our client didn't commit a rape. They had been in a relationship for many years, and they had broken up, and they had all types of different sex during the relationship, and our defense was consent. And we talked to the jurors probably for about an hour about, cases about their dating experience, their sexual experience as much as you can, because it's hard to talk to people about sex, but you have to tailor your questions for each case. If it's a DUI case, you have to tailor your questions. I mean, do they have family members that are, alcoholics? Do they drink themselves? What do they think impaired means versus drunk? So it's different for every case. I mean, I have a certain set of go-to questions. Like, I got this question from Roy Black when he was alive, one of the former public defender like you, Danny, and like us, a great trial lawyer. He would ask at the end, name 3 people you most admire, living or dead, and you can ask why, but I would always end with that. And, you'd hear politicians, authors, and you get to engage with the jurors. And a lot of times it's, funny because of the people that they name, but you learn a lot from people. So I have the staples like that. I have the reasonable doubt type of instructions that or questions that I ask at all of them. But I always tailor my voir dire depending upon what the charge is and who the client is. Because if it is an athlete or someone that's high profile or a law enforcement, you got to go right at it. Like I like to go at what the elephant in the room is. I go at it directly and just ask questions about it and try and get jurors and invite them to be honest and to speak and tell us your feelings. Can you be fair and impartial? Should we leave you on here? Fair and impartial to the state and fair and impartial to our client that sits here in this courtroom accused of this type of crime.
Right, and I mean, it's just so much more challenging when you know that the media is painting a narrative. That's why it is important for you to paint the narrative, right? I understand that side because you're already combating that with the. And do you ever go into questions about like how often these people use their phones? Like, do you ever go down that line to kind of get a read? I mean, I've not done that.
So
have you done that?
How often they use their phones to get a read?
Yeah, just to get a read on how much they're reading out there. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yes, especially so the high-profile cases you want to know.
Right.
Have you heard about this case? Do you know about this case? And you hope that our jurors are going to be honest when they come into a courtroom.
Sure.
For whatever reason, sometimes they're nervous, or you can kind of tell, right? You can read the body language. If we really knew, you and I would have won the Powerball tickets. Like if we could tell the future was at $1.8 billion, you and I would have split. But you ask them, have you heard about this case? You talk to them, on your phones, on the media, you try and get them to be honest and talk to them because it's not easy. Like getting a colonoscopy, if you will, in a courtroom from a lawyer you've never met. We're asking you about. I just tried a case where an officer was accused of striking someone or asking someone to strike him in the testicles, and that was unlawful compensation. That was the allegation. It didn't go to trial, but I was about to ask questions about their sex lives and like who thinks it's a benefit to get struck in the in the cojones over here in the testicles and get jurors to talk. Now perhaps they're going to laugh, but like you're asking
Some
jurors,
will get offended.
probably,
Right.
But you don't want the ones that will be offended.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
maybe you do. You want the ones like that's not a benefit, but like we're asking them very, very private questions. So the art is getting them to talk and with their phones. Honestly, like have you guys heard about this case, or for some reason are you trying to dupe us and get on this jury? There was a time when I was in law enforcement and I saw some things going around in the media where people were trying to get on jurors that had an agenda. Now, whether or not it was true, but like I saw that like going around on the internet, so you never really know. Sometimes people just want to get on a jury for all kinds of reasons. We just want people that are going to listen, be fair and impartial, and judge what they hear, the facts, and say guilty or not guilty. But what do we really want? Jurors that are going to go our way, but we'll never admit that.
Right, and I was talking about with Larry Schweiker and some of these other guys who try cases. Like the most terrifying juror is the one you haven't talked to, or you just because a lot of listeners understand the way it works. When you start to strike, there's peremptories, there's causes. You don't get to just pick what you want. You end up with like something in the middle because if the state knows you want them or the federal government knows they're going to try to strike. If you know they want them, you try to strike. And when six, it's just literally there'll be a number, and then these are the first six, all right? And then if this one goes, all right, this one's on. So you have an idea of who's coming next. So you're playing this, it becomes this chess match. But if you get to that juror and you're like, oh my God, what was do you have notes on this guy? Like, did you talk to this person? How terrifying is that, right?
It's so true, Danny. That is one of the reasons why I end with that last question.
Right.
Name 2 or 3 people that you would want to have dinner with or that you admire. And I'll start with number 1 and I'll go to the end because it's really important because that starts the dialogue that you try to talk to all of them because it's that juror that you haven't talked to, like, oh my God, I don't have notes. And in federal court, I mean, forget about it. The government's at the same disadvantage to you. I mean, the federal court cases that I've tried, our voir dire has been extremely limited, but the government has the same limitation too and the same fear. So you just sometimes got to go on instinct and spidey senses. I've used jury consultants once. I don't really believe in that. I really believe that good trial lawyers can talk to people and understand people. And again, we're not always right, but our instinct and who to pick or not pick, and you try as much as you can, we got to talk to all of them.
You can overthink it. That's the problem with that. That's what I found. The funniest thing, just a quick story on it. I was trying a case, and I think it was brand new. I had a mentor with me. Remember they used to put a mentor with you at the beginning?
I do.
And I had a mentor, and it was a case where the person it was a fight between a girl and a guy, and she had damage on her lip pretty bad. There was a lot of bloody photos, right? And I was going through my jury, and there was a doctor on the panel, right, Eric? So I'm like, I'm sitting there and I'm strategizing, and it was Jackie Powell. Remember Jackie? She's a judge now, right? Great,
Very well.
love you, Jackie.
Yeah.
So Jackie's
And
on
we
the
love
panel.
you, Jackie, we
yeah.
do.
So Jackie's just watching, and she's like letting me do my thing, and I'm like, yeah, I like the doctor. She's like, no, you got to get rid of the doctor. I'm like, no, I like the doctor. She's like looking at me like I fell off the wall. Like, why do you like the doctor? I'm like, well, the doctor's going to see, because the cut was real little, Eric, right? The doctor is not going to be scared off by blood, right? The doctor's going to see it and say, look, a little cut can bleed, because our defense was that there was flailing and arguing, and it wasn't a strike. It was in the melee she got hit in the lip, right? So she's like, I don't know, Danny. Like, and she was more experienced. Be like, I don't like that, but whatever you want to do. So we go through, and I get not guilties on everything. It was like 6 counts, like everything but the battery, right? And I'm like, damn. So then, at the end, the jury always wants to come talk to you, because you can't talk to the jurors along the way. In the end, they come. They're all waiting. And they come up to me, and they're like, Danny, listen, we loved you. Everybody loved you. We wanted to give you not guilties across the board, but the doctor. And I'm like, what happened to the doctor? He goes, he took one look at the photo. He goes, no, this woman was battered. And we got sunk overthinking it, right?
That happens. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, but Rob Bouchel, my former partner, we tried a very high-profile case 20 years ago. It was called Lethal Beauty. It was on Dateline, silicone pumping parties, where two men, they lived together as husband and wife. They were in the, one was transvestite, one was pre-op for a sex change, and they were going around in the transgender community and having these pumping parties where they would give industrial-grade silicone, and someone died, and they charged our client with unlawful practice of medicine without a license and manslaughter. And Rob Bouchel and I had this argument in jury selection. He wanted to keep this nurse on there because the nurse would understand the way perhaps silicone migrated in the bloodstream.
Right.
We had a little bit of an argument. The nurse gets left on our jury. There's 2 stories to this. George Rearez has another 6 jurors in that case, and they came back, found his client, same set of facts, not guilty. Bouchel and I had the jury on with the nurse. Our client was found guilty. So we later find out there's jury misconduct motions that the nurse went back there and was saying, listen, I'm a nurse. Silicone doesn't migrate in the bloodstream like this. There was no literature on it. So we had, like an idiot, I said in the press, this nurse is playing doctor.
Right.
We had, our motion was Judge Weinstein, who's the chief judge later on. We lost our jury misconduct motion, but the case came back on appeal because it was improper at that time for the medical examiner to opine that the way that silicone migrated in the bloodstream, because there was no, at that time,
good science.
no literature on it.
Right.
So there's an example of overthought it. We were opposite, a medical professional left on our jury. I don't like to judge all, but I'm always wary of nurses now because of that, and how different jurors, same set of facts, can come to different verdicts.
That's what they call it.
But we won on appeal, so that case did come back.
Usually, listen, that's why they call it the practice of law. You can only gain that through experience, right?
But we overthink all the time.
But that's what you have to do. It's like a chess match, and you have to think of it.
But that's what we get paid to do, isn't it? Like
right.
A, B, C, D, E, F, air, land, and sea. Like, well, what if this? What if this? To just be prepared. I'm like, sometimes people think I'm a crazy person, and I'm sure they think you as well. But we get paid to overthink everything. I mean, I think I diagnosed myself with contagiosum molluscum because I saw a little rash, and I was looking at the AI this morning. I'm like, well, what is that? What is that? It's probably just like a paper
leprosy.
cut.
I have leprosy.
Right, something like that's a whole other thing, like AI and how that's being used.
Right.
In the courtrooms, but overthinking all the time is something we do as lawyers, but I'm guilty of it, and I think that's what we need to do. I think if we're guilty of overthinking, we're doing a good job.
We're doing
Danny.
a great job, exactly. And that leads to the next topic I want to talk about, because the thing with jury selections that make it even more a challenge is when you have, I want to talk about judges for a minute, right? Let's not get in trouble
Should we
here.
mention some names?
I don't know if we should mention names. I think we should stay away from names, but people will know, anybody in the community will know who we're talking about. But when they limit your jury selection, or where they're getting involved, to me, that is my biggest pet peeve with the case that I'm trying. If I have a judge that's too involved and telling me, there's a judge in Palm Beach right now, I don't want to name her name, but she's very difficult and she's limited. You should see her rules on jury selection and procedure. What are some of your pet peeves about judges in general, and what are some of the things that you love about judges? If we could kind of break into that for the last few minutes.
So as lawyers, right, we should realize, and they probably should start teaching in law school, that not all judges are created equal.
Right.
The best judge is the judge that stays out of it, right? Because judges are supposed to be fair and impartial, and be fair and impartial to the state and fair and impartial to the defense. I mean, to me, the best judges are the ones that just make rulings, that don't sua sponte object. I mean, I've had judges on their own make sua sponte objections, which means, there was no objection for the state, but they just objected from the bench and
Right.
just sustained an objection on me. And I've seen it done on the state as well, too. I mean, I don't like it on either sides because I really think judges are supposed to be fair and impartial. My biggest pet peeve is, what you've hit on a little bit, is when judges have limitations or won't let the lawyers be lawyers.
Right.
The lawyers need to be lawyers. Who's supposed to be the most powerful person in the room? I mean, we tease, but it's true. It's like the lawyer, like to be in control. Obviously, we respect the court. We respect their rulings. They have decorum. But really, the greatest trial lawyer is the one that is in control in that courtroom, or the perception of control. But from the judge's standpoint, to me, it should be, they should back off, let the lawyers, the state, and the defense be lawyers. When there's an objection, rule on it. And then the lawyer should be respectful as well, too. I don't think you should argue. You'll make your record after it's a sustained or overruled and then moved on. But I can't stand when judges are just too involved.
No, there were supposed to be referees, but not only referees, is a caveat to that. A referee that only gets involved when you're asked to get involved, right? When there's, you know what I mean? It's not just sua sponte, what he said, that just means on their own. Like, making calls, there needs to be an objection, right? Like, that's
Right, it's not a football game, right? In fact,
right.
it's not a game.
Right.
It's life.
At all,
And
right.
I don't like when judges also, they'll try and help another side. What's difficult representing pro se. Pro se means someone that's representing themselves.
Right.
Sometimes they get a lot of leeway from the court, but if he who represents himself or she who represents herself does have a fool for a client, but I don't think it's a judge's role when that happens to help a little bit or to even the playing fields, or when a prosecutor is not on the same footing as a defense attorney, or when a defense attorney is not on the same footing as a prosecutor. I think it's the judge's role I know they want to control the courtroom and they want to be fair and impartial, and our judges strive to do that, but I don't think it's right when they get involved when they're not supposed to, because that's a really interesting, astute point that you make, Danny, right? That they have to be when they're called upon, unlike football or unlike instant review or any other sporting match,
right.
or like a tennis match. Just thinking, I was watching the U.S. Open. Like, it's when they're called upon, and I don't think sometimes judges do the greatest job of being on the sidelines and waiting to get involved, or sometimes getting too involved. I mean, I don't think they should show their stripes one way or the other. I had a trial once where, and I don't want to mention names here, it's many years
Sure.
ago, where a judge was too, just went out of his way for the defense and out of his way for me. And at one point in time told the prosecutor, shut down the prosecutor. The prosecutor, kid had balls, God bless him, snapped back. Well, it's easy when there's two defense lawyers in here.
Oof.
I love the kid for saying that. I acted like I was mad, but that's what was going on. And it didn't feel right. It felt dirty, and I don't like it on the other end, right? And, sometimes, but, I had a trial recently where it was too much of a judge. It was out of jurisdiction, and I think the jurors felt bad for us and for the defense, and I embraced it, and it kind of backfired. So I think judges need to be fair and impartial. Well, as lawyers, we need to understand they're not all the same, understand their rules, their policies, if you will, how they are, and we have to adapt. I mean, adapt to your courtroom. We're never going to change them. You think you can,
That's the
but
truth.
it's never going to change. I mean, there's so many great judges out there, and there's so many bad judges out there, but they're not all created equal, like lawyers, doctors, like anyone.
Right. It's funny because I told my son Jacob the other day, he has a teacher he doesn't like. You probably know her. You taught on that faculty with him, and he's like, she just took off 15 points. She's strict. She's such a bitch. Blah blah blah. All this, right? And I'm like, Jacob, listen. This is life, right? You have teachers. If you know this teacher is difficult, you have to adapt to the teacher being difficult. There's a judge right now that will yell at you in St. Lucie County, not going to name names, and maybe you know him, for not having your top button buttoned at the neck, and will berate you like a child. And it's ridiculous, especially us seasoned attorneys. You come in there and you see some berating lawyers. But the bottom line is, just button the damn top collar, because you're just going to sit here and get berated. You're not going to change the guy, and that's what it is, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, you agree. You have to adapt to the environment that you're in.
You have to adapt to the environment. It's like life is like trials, right? Like the trials and the judges in the courtroom,
Right.
and how they control their courtroom. I mean, that's their role, right? Decorum and to be fair and impartial. But sometimes it's just so unnecessary. You have me thinking, Danny, as I sit here, like, the stress, I work for myself, I have some associates, the stress of my job a lot of times is like the judges, and like
Right.
it's stressful enough being in a courtroom, having to, like, you're fighting for your client, the state is fighting you, and I enjoy that, but then you've got the judge, and like the environment that's made in there, like it can add to the stress, and like sometimes it's just so unnecessary, and sometimes, I mean, I've had trials, it's been the greatest experience in the world with a judge, and that's when they've just like stayed in their lane and, like, be a referee, be fair and impartial, and make rulings when they're called upon. But there are times, Danny, when you just go in there, and listen, it's part of the practice of law, because whenever you get a case, you're like, well, what courtroom is this going to be in?
Right.
What's the fee going to be? Because I know I'm dealing with more of a hassle
100%.
and a headache going in here, and the time frame. And sometimes it's so unnecessary, and sometimes they're great. But just like in life, like with your son, and how trials are like, microcosms of life, it's like life, and you got to know what you're dealing with.
Right. And listen, I love you coming on. I love you. I'm inviting you here on air to come next time we have some celebrity trials. I want to analyze these trials with you. I know if you could fit me in your busy schedule at Court TV and here and all your appearances, I know you're going to fit me in, because we got love
I
for
love
each
you,
other,
brother.
right?
I'm honored to be here. Like this is really cool to set up. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm
too.
glad. But you helped me pick a background next
I
time
like
too.
it. I like this one.
Yeah, no, I love it too. But listen, thank you so much for coming on. I love you. I appreciate your mentorship, your friendship, and I'm sure that'll be going on for years. And thank you for doing what you do for everybody. Thanks
Thank
for coming
you,
on,
Danny.
Eric.
You're a hell of a mensch, a hell of a lawyer, my friend.
I love you, buddy.
Love
Thank you,
more.
my friend. And thank you to all my listeners and viewers. We're out of time for this episode. I hope you enjoyed Eric Schwartzreich. He's the top of the top. You can go find him. He has Schwartzreich and Associates. We'll be tagging him when this comes out. We'll be tagging his firm. He's got some great attorneys with him as well. All top dogs. Fierce fighters. I think his emblem is a shark. His emblem is the shark fin.
It's a little
because
cheesy, but I like it.
Yeah, but he is a shark. So thank you again, Eric. Thank you to our listener and viewers for watching Two Taps and Friends. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Like I say, if you like, subscribe to the channel, it gives us more outreach, can bring more amazing guests like Mr. Schwartzreich out here. Please, you can find us on YouTube Music. You can find us on the Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere, iHeartRadio. So check us out. We also have swag now you can find on the website, Two Taps and Stuff swag, some cool stuff there. Thank you guys so much for listening. Look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Love you all.
Danny,
Goodbye.
Give me your YouPorn site as well, too.
The YouPorn site is going to be linked at the bottom. So thank you all for listening. Love you all. Goodbye. Cut. We're good.